those issues quite a bit, as I recall. When I was single, I had married friends. I would not visit.
In 2024, Jerry Seinfeld walked onto a massive stage, greeted by thunderous applause from thousands of fans who had followed him for decades. Yet something subtle had changed. The jokes still landed, the timing was still surgical, but offstage, the reactions were different. His children, now adults, didn't laugh the way audiences did. When he tried to connect, they sometimes asked, half joking, "Is that a bit?" It wasn't cruel, just honest. For a man whose life revolved around observation, the realization hit quietly. The world that once mirrored his humor so perfectly was shifting, and so was he. Roots shaped by history and humor. Jerry Seinfeld was born on April 29, 1954, in Brooklyn, New York, into a family shaped by survival, migration, and storytelling. His father, Kalman Seinfeld, had escaped Hungary after World War II and built a modest life as a sign painter, while his mother, Betty, came from a Syrian Jewish family whose roots traced back to Aleppo. Their histories carried the weight of displacement, resilience, and adaptation, and humor became the family's way of coping. At the dinner table, Kalman often turned meals into informal comedy shows, delivering jokes he had collected through life, teaching Jerry that laughter wasn't just entertainment, it was endurance. A childhood built on observation. Growing up in Massapequa, Long Island, Jerry lived a quiet suburban life alongside his older sister, Carolyn, in a home where wit was valued and details mattered. His father's small sign shop doubled as Jerry's first creative studio, where he learned that even ordinary words, if arranged just right, could make people smile. He wasn't loud or flashy as a child, but he watched closely, noticing the quirks of neighbors, the rhythms of conversations, and the absurdities adults barely registered. Those observations quietly became the foundation of everything he would later build. Discovering comedy as a craft. By the age of 8, Jerry was already studying comedy with unusual focus, staying up late to watch television hosts and memorizing the timing of professional comics. Unlike many children who dreamed vaguely of fame, Jerry approached humor methodically, keeping handwritten joke notes and rehearsing alone in his bedroom. By 10, he openly told people he wanted to be a stand-up comedian, not as a fantasy, but as a plan. Comedy, to him, wasn't chaos. It was structure, rhythm, and discipline. Teenage years and the power of improvisation. In high school, Jerry joined drama club but quickly became frustrated with rigid scripts, often slipping improvised jokes into performances. Teachers were sometimes annoyed, but audiences reacted instantly, and Jerry noticed the difference between rehearsed lines and spontaneous truth. During a summer spent on a kibbutz in Israel, he observed people from vastly different backgrounds clashing over trivial matters, an experience that sharpened his understanding of human behavior. These moments reinforced his belief that the smallest conflicts often revealed the biggest truths. Choosing the mic over stability. After briefly attending college upstate, Jerry transferred to Queens College to stay closer to New York City's comedy scene, graduating in 1976 with a degree in communications and theater. While his education mattered, the real lessons came at night in comedy clubs where his early sets often fell flat. Bombing was painful, but it taught him precision. He learned that humor didn't need exaggeration, it needed recognition. When graduation arrived, he briefly tried conventional work, but quickly realized stability wasn't for him. Comedy wasn't a side path, it was the path. Grinding through the comedy circuit. The late 1970s were lean years, filled with small crowds, low pay, and borrowed couches. Jerry performed relentlessly, refining jokes about mundane frustrations, airplanes, laundry, roommates, until they felt effortless. Club owners began noticing his consistency, and by the early 1980s, television appearances followed. When Johnny Carson laughed during his first Tonight Show appearance, it marked a turning point. Jerry wasn't just another comic anymore. He was becoming a recognizable voice across America. From stand-up to television, visionary. Despite early acting rejections, Jerry stayed focused on stand-up, sharpening his observational style rather than reshaping himself for Hollywood. His HBO special and frequent late-night appearances solidified his reputation. But it was his partnership with Larry David that changed television. Together, they envisioned a sitcom built entirely around everyday frustrations, without melodrama or moral lessons. The concept puzzled executives at first, but persistence paid off, and in 1989, what would become Seinfeld quietly entered television history. Redefining what sitcoms could be. As Seinfeld evolved, Jerry pushed for creative control, drawing directly from real experiences and conversations. Episodes like The Soup Nazi and The Contest succeeded because they reflected shared discomforts people rarely discussed openly. The show thrived on restraint, implication, and honesty, transforming trivialities into cultural landmarks. By the mid-1990s, it was one of the most successful sitcoms of all time, redefining what audiences expected from comedy. Walking away at the peak. In 1998, at the height of its popularity, Seinfeld ended. The finale sparked debate, but Jerry stood by the decision to leave before repetition dulled the edge. Financially, he had nothing left to prove, yet creatively, he returned to stand-up, where his career began. Touring arenas worldwide, he continued doing what he loved most, dissecting everyday life in front of a live audience. Reinvention without reinvention. Rather than chasing new sitcoms, Jerry explored formats that let him stay himself. Comedians in cars getting coffee offered casual, unpolished conversations, blending humor with curiosity. The show's relaxed tone resonated, including a widely watched episode featuring a sitting U.S. president, proving that comedy didn't need spectacle, just authenticity. Looking back to move forward. In 2017, Jerry before Seinfeld revisited his earliest material, showcasing decades-old jokes that still worked. The special wasn't nostalgic for fame, but for process, revealing how carefully each line had been shaped. It reminded audiences that longevity isn't about reinvention, it's about refinement. Experimenting with new mediums, from animated films to Broadway appearances, Jerry continued experimenting without abandoning his core voice. During the pandemic, he adapted stand-up to virtual formats, proving that timing mattered more than venue. His projects remained rooted in observation, even when the platforms changed. Navigating public scrutiny. Over the years, Jerry's personal life occasionally drew attention, but he consistently avoided spectacle, choosing privacy over explanation. Rather than fueling controversy, he focused on work, family, and philanthropy, contributing quietly to causes he cared about without public fanfare. Understanding his own mind. In a 2014 interview, Jerry reflected openly on feeling different in social situations, describing himself as literal and routine-oriented. He avoided labels, emphasizing self-awareness rather than diagnosis. For many fans, it provided context, not an explanation, for his precision, boundaries, and unique perspective. Family, aging, and perspective. As his children grew older, Jerry acknowledged the strange irony of being universally recognized, yet playfully questioned at home. He spoke candidly about parenting, admitting imperfection, and valuing presence over praise. Aging, he realized, wasn't about decline. It was about clarity. Wealth built on consistency. Jerry's financial success wasn't built on constant reinvention, but on repetition done well. Syndication, touring, and streaming deals created a legacy of steady returns, reflecting the durability of material rooted in universal truths. His wealth became a byproduct, not the goal. Teaching the next generation. In recent years, Jerry has mentored younger comedians, emphasizing discipline over inspiration. He teaches that most jokes fail, and that's normal. Writing, revising, and rewriting are the real work. Talent opens the door, but consistency keeps it open. Still standing, still watching. Now in his 70s, Jerry Seinfeld continues preparing new material, not because he needs to, but because he wants to. His upcoming tour reflects the same themes he's always explored: aging, habits, technology, and the strange comfort of repetition. The world has changed, but the human behaviors he studies haven't. The quiet truth behind the laughter. Jerry Seinfeld's story isn't about reinvention or downfall. It's about attention, paying close attention to life as it unfolds and finding humor in its smallest corners. Fame came and stayed, but curiosity lasted longer. And as long as people keep doing strange, ordinary things, Jerry Seinfeld will likely keep